Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Mentor Nation podcast. If you don't already know, my name is John Abbas, and I've hosted this podcast for going on a year and a half now. I can't believe it's actually been that long. We've had all kinds of just incredible guests on the show, everyone from business people that are running billion-dollar companies to soldiers that have seen things that you can't even imagine. And, my goal with the Mentor Nation podcast since day one was just to ask really great and insightful questions in order to get the answers that can help all of you guys, the listeners, just have a breakthrough in your life. Maybe it's an action step. Maybe it's a strategy. Maybe it is a mindset or a perspective shift, but just anything that can help you level up your life and your actions. And so if this is your first time listening, I just want to welcome you. And I ask that you please hit that subscribe button so that you get notified every time I release a new episode. Man, today's guest left me so inspired that I've been looking forward and so excited to publish this episode for a very long time. I left the interview just literally mind blown, and it was just off the wall. Like, he did it in his car, but it was just a great interview. And I'm gonna tell you something. There are two things that you are absolutely going to leave this interview with. Number one, first, you're going to leave understanding clearly that it is never, ever too late to have success in your own life. And number two, you are going to leave realizing that you just are not thinking big enough. Just trust me on that. Alexander Kane, who is my guest today, is from the small little town of Fitzgerald, Georgia, just a population of 8,000 people. At the age of 35, with 6 children, he decided that he wanted to leave his day job. Now think about that. You have all these responsibilities. You have 6 children. You have a day job. He decided that he wanted to leave that day job to pursue and make a name for himself in the movie business. He decided to become an actor. And after a short stint of trying to forge success in acting, he realized that if he was going to really have success, he needed to take control of his future and produce and make his own projects. And crazy enough, that's exactly what he did. He faced rejection everywhere from every direction you can possibly imagine, finally raised the money that he needed for his first film with the mayor of his town of Fitzgerald, Georgia, writing the first check. Since then, he has went on to produce several films with major celebrities that like Bruce Willis, Mel Gibson, Luke Wilson, starring in his films. It's just even crazier. As if it doesn't get any crazier. He didn't go to Hollywood to make this happen. He brought Hollywood to his town of Fitzgerald, Georgia. This put his town on the map. And he's just got a great story, guys. In this interview, Alex shares his story, his mindset, his vision, his preparation. And I dare you to listen to this episode and not leave thinking 10 times bigger than you currently do now. So with that being said, guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Alex, welcome to the podcast, brother. I've been looking forward to this interview. Since the day that I scheduled it. So thanks for being on. You're definitely the first movie producer, actor that I've had on the show. So I'm really pumped for this conversation. So thanks for being on.
Oh, me too. Me too. I like to talk about things that I'm passionate about. And this is, I've kept this on obviously with 6 kids and movies galore, it's not forefront on my mind, but I've had this not only in the calendar, but actually, every few days I'm thinking, when are we going to do that? And so I'm glad that we're here now.
Yeah, me too. So for the listeners out there, Alexander Kane is the epitome of what you can accomplish when you set your mind to something and make a decision, and regardless of how old you are. And I want to give him your background just really quickly, because at 35 years old and with 6 kids, he made a decision that he wanted to leave his day job and make a name for himself in the movie industry. And this is even though you're living in a small town, in Fitzgerald, Georgia, a town of 9,000 people. And it's crazy because You did exactly that. You've built an incredible reputation for yourself as an actor, a movie producer. You've signed on people like Bruce Willis, Luke Wilson, Mel Gibson to star in your movies. And it's wild because when all of you guys listening hear the story of how Alexander got here and the impact that he's making on his community, I think you guys are going to be blown away. And so I can't wait to talk about that. Alex, I really wanted to focus today just on your story because it's
let's
super unorthodox and it's just contrary to the path that most people would think to take. And so I can't wait to dissect it for the listeners.
I think the exciting part for me is that I may be wearing a white t-shirt today, but I'm certainly a blue collar guy. Right. And so it gives your average Joe, which is what I am, hope that you can do it from any point, any stage. It's not even a story of success and triumph. It's just a story about doing it.
Yep.
It's just an action story, like a stop talking about it, start doing it story, and to say it's a success story, even at this point, would be like, it's hard to define success for most people, but it's easy for me. I say success is if you're happy, right? And so I am. And so that's all that matters. So success story is real simple. Are you happy? And are, content, satisfaction, happiness? I'm never content. That's one thing my wife and I argue about all the time. She's like, when is enough enough? I go, enough's never enough. I love you every day. If enough was enough, I could just say, well, I loved you. We can divorce now. That was my goal, to love you and to marry you. No, I'm never content. I want more stories with you. I want more experiences with you. I want to spend more time with you. So enough's never enough. But it doesn't have to be this hunger, this I'm hungry for life. I'm miserable because I'm hungry. Enough is never enough. It's I'm happy, I'm successful, but I just always want to keep pushing. Because what I find now is I just look to do let's look at it. Now I've reached that point where it's like, let's see what else can't be done. What else can't be done that way? And let's try to challenge that,
Man. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I love that. I was going to ask, your background, because, when I researched you, obviously at age 35, you had, I don't know if it was an epiphany or a decision that you made. So what were you doing before?
It's simpler. It's much simpler than that. I think everybody wants to say there was this magic, snap in my head, but actually the story relates more to the common person, which is what I am. You're common guy. Besides being told I look like Charlie Hunnam constantly, if you passed me on the streets, you wouldn't pick me out of a crowd. Probably.
That's exactly right.
So I've always wanted to be an actor. I grew up as an only child, even though I have 3 brothers and sisters. I have 2 sisters and a brother that are younger than me. My dad and mom divorced before I was born. And my mom and dad had one little slip up, I guess, before he got married. They had a little rendezvous, I guess you could say. And after 7 years of marriage and 1 year being divorced, they accidentally had what my mom used to say is her miracle child, because she knew she was never going to get married again at 30 years old. And so my mom and dad, oddly enough, you always watch a rom-com. There's always the high school star athlete and the head of the cheerleader together. But that head of the cheerleader doesn't know that the star athlete's not the guy she should be with. And she ends up with the average guy that wins her heart and all this kind of stuff. Well, that's the way the movie works. My dad actually was the star athlete. My mom was the homecoming queen and the cheerleader and all that. Except my mom got it because she was sweet and wonderful and kind and dirt poor, which is often not the reason a homecoming queen wins. Usually it's because they're the most popular and they're the most attractive. But my mother really was not a very bright individual, if I'm being honest, but she was so sweet that sugar wouldn't melt in her mouth. That's the honest to God truth. I never heard her say a bad word about anybody. And she didn't teach me a lot because she wasn't, like I said, everybody thinks your mother's this holy, profound individual, and they are profound often. But my mother was by no means a scholar. And I remember her wisdom being simple, but it's the simple wisdom that works. And I always honor her because she always said, never let them see them get to you. Always smile. even in the face of adversity, hate. Always let them see you smile. If you want to win, always smile. Never let them see you cry. And so she would say, treat other people better than you would treat yourself. Treat other people better than you would treat yourself. Put other people first, and never let them see you break. And that got me through most of my life, because I realized that negativity gives up before optimism gives up. Negative
Right.
people will break because they can only keep up that energy so long. So I was born, and I wanted to be an actor since I was little, because as an only child, I had a lot of neighborhood friends, but it's the movies that babysat me. Let's be real. The movies, TV was my babysitter, right? And so I was raised by 4 women, my Aunt Peggy, my Aunt Connie, my grandmother, and they were fun. My granny was a drinker. I was raised sort of classy, but white trash, if you'd say, in terms of poor. We kind of had everything, and we always had the car that you had to hold your mouth like this and press a button here while turning the key, or it wouldn't crank. And so, you know what I mean? I had like I grew up with 4 uncles. I didn't see my dad a whole lot, but he's an awesome guy, but I just didn't see him a whole lot. He was kind of had more money, was more affluent. And so he had structure and hours, and you should be in bed by 10. And my other family was like drinking coffee at 3 a.m. and watching Dallas reruns. And I had the best childhood you could ever imagine. I swam with alligators and fished and caught catfish, didn't know what fear was. I lived the life of just an outdoor wildcat. And so, I had the best childhood growing up. But movies at night and during the day when I was alone, it was movies that inspired me, that taught me. Rocky taught me how to persevere. Kevin Costner, Kevin Bacon, Val Kilmer, that taught me what cool was. Burt Reynolds is the man. Burt Reynolds is for me what cool is, right? Smokey and the Bandit. And so, as I got older, it became who took the baton from Burt Reynolds? Matthew McConaughey, right? So that's kind of like, I stay in that mold of, I'm more of your Steve McQueen, Burt Reynolds, Matthew McConaughey guy. I don't really understand these newer, younger actors and what the world has started to believe. They've tried to deconstruct what cool is.
Yeah.
So to get to kind of segue back to and stay on track here on the through line, movies, I've always wanted to be an actor. And so that never died. So the one thing I'd like to, make clear is I always wanted to be an actor. What happened was I had that high school sweetheart, and we, I didn't leave and go to Hollywood at 18, and I didn't leave and go to Hollywood at 19. And right at 20, when I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, we got pregnant with our daughter, not married. And so I knew right then, besides being an actor, the thing I wanted to be was a dad. And I wanted to be the best dad in the world, and which I've probably fallen far short of, but I've tried. And, I just decided I could not pursue my dreams at the expense of my children's dreams. So if I just up and left and went to Hollywood and wanted to flounder around and take a chance to be an actor, that was going to mean less food on the table for them, less security for them, less structure for them. And I couldn't assume that everybody wanted what I wanted. And so I know that it seems like that was maybe more mature decision than even I was that at that time. Being a dad is my top priority over business, over my desires, over everything. And so that really is what solidified the next 15 years, was getting to a point of financial security for them so that I had enough stability to say, okay, I'm done. Now I'm going to do what I want to do.
Man, your story is far, far more relatable than I picked up from, reading some of the articles. It's just incredible to hear it out of your own mouth, because it's the things that we all think about. I'm the same way. I had a daughter at the worst time you can ever imagine, when I was losing my restaurant, super broke. And I just, had to do what you had to do to get back so that you can get to where you can focus on your things.
Absolutely.
So you're 35, and at the age of 35, how many kids did you have at that point? Was it six?
So
All
at
six?
35, I had no. At 35, I had four. But let's fall back to around 26, 27 years old.
Okay.
Around 26, 27, I got divorced. And my wife was, RN. She knew exactly what she wanted. And I was still doing whatever she wanted me to do, right? Which was like 9 to 5 factory work. And I've always been a guy that went into something and said, I hate it. I don't want to do this. And I'm the guy that gets hired at the factory. And on day one, I'm thinking about how this job's going to end. It's probably going to end with me letting some manager have it, saying, I have no passion for this. You get out of my face. I'm leaving. And so, because I'm a fiery, very passionate, confrontational kind of person in terms of I'm the easiest going guy in the world, but I don't, I do not mind saying exactly what's on my mind. And so I knew that in life, it doesn't really work well in the worker bee hive world, because
that's right.
Boss men, but career boss men that are going to be somewhere for a career and don't have big dreams and aspirations have a very hard time dealing with the people under them that kind of don't care. Right. And so I was always one of those supervisors that was good and would probably, I got promoted everywhere I went. I was supervisor everywhere I went. I was in charge everywhere I went. And that comes just with being a natural leader, I guess. If I'll give myself a compliment, it's I can't sit in a group of people where there's no defined leadership. I'll just go, I'll do it. I'll stand in front while the bullets are coming. I don't care. I'll do it. So if we're ever in a group and somebody's like, it's indecisive, I'll make the decision. I don't care. So, like Ferris Bueller said in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Cameron, I'll take the heat on this one. You don't want this kind of heat. You're not used to it. I'm Ferris. I'll do it. If you need to blame it on somebody, blame it on me. I can handle it. So, divorced around 26, 27, 2 kids at the time. And then I meet the love of my life, a little 18-year-old girl named Brittany, who it seems so weird to say that she was 8 years younger than me, but she was so mature and came from such a terrible background. If you knew Brittany's life story, that's really the story to tell, but just a alley cat, that was surviving on her own, never met her parents and had these miserable, abusive in-laws and not in-laws, but uncles and aunts, outlaws, I should say, that just could not have mistreated her and her twin brother any worse. And here's this little 5'5", adorable little black-headed, motherly 18-year-old who attached to my children like that as a friend. We did nothing. We did not date. It was nothing romantic for 2 years. I knew her for 2 years. She had this amazing, just motherly sense to her with children because she had helped raise all these other children and been a mother to even these scumbags that were her uncles and aunts. And her brother was 6'4", 250-pound athlete. And they have a great story to tell, as I said, but she got pregnant with a friend of hers, her boyfriend at the time, that left her, and she lost the baby almost at full term. And we had never dated, we had never kissed, and I knew in that moment when she lost that baby that I couldn't ever see her mistreated again. And I was just her friend. And I showed up to the funeral and asked her to marry me. And we had never even kissed or dated. And we got married and have had 4 children and been together ever since. And she's really the story because she said, whatever you want to do, I'm behind you. And so I got into the oil business. We were so dirt poor. We had $9, a kid on the way, behind $40,000 in child support, and a single wide trailer that we lived in with my aunt and my uncle. And you could see out the wall when it rained. I could just look over and go, it's raining. That was the weather report. And I was driving like 2.5 hours to my half-sister's boyfriend's train yard where I was changing train brakes underneath the train for $200 a week in cash. It was just a very rough time. Never once did we feel poor or disheartened or like we weren't going to make it. And out of the blue, I got a phone call from a buddy of mine who did not want to go to the oil fields and work alone and said, would you want to work this oil job with me, traveling? I had no idea what it was, what it paid, but I knew it had to pay more than $200 a week. And I knew I had the right wife to join me. So I said, hell yeah, I'll take the job. So I showed up in Texas, drove the 13 hours, jumped on, got to Houston. They treated me like a king. And I said to my wife, I don't know what this pays yet, but I'm pretty sure it pays pretty good. So, got to the bottom of it. 2 weeks later, I get my first paycheck. It's like $5,000 for 2 weeks worth of work. And I was like, all right. So all I got to do is hammer these laths, walk around in the wilderness alone with 2 other guys and work my ass off and make $5,000 every 2 weeks. I can do that. And not only that, if I'm making 5,000, what must these 2 guys that are working ahead of me as my bosses make? So within 6 months, I was in charge of my own crew, making $10,000 a week. Sometimes I decided, like always, I ended up starting my own oil company, making, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month.
Wow.
I catch on to things very quickly. And I just outworked everybody, even though they called me the laziest guy in the business at times, because I would just use my mind.
Yep.
Because it was one of those jobs with the old, you got to do your time, son. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I'm smart enough to figure out how not to have to do 20 years, to get there. So within 6 months, I had hired all my friends from Georgia. I had brought Brittany's brother into the business, and we've all chased the oil money for a decade. And then, I would get them all jobs, and they were great workers and great guys. And then one day I said, hey guys, I'm going to go act. And they're all like, what? Everybody's like, what are you doing? What are we going to do? It's all, we have oil money. What is I supposed to do now? And I was like, y'all are fine, keep working. And now I want to fast forward. Here we are, probably almost 5 years after I first announced I was going to go pursue acting. And they all work in the movie business now, on my crew, in my team. They're doing the same thing. We're on our way up together again for the second time in a new industry. And let me go a few steps back a second, meaning long-term goal dedication is much harder than short-term goal dedication. So an example is oil business. I knew oil business. If you look at a picture of me from 26 years old, I look older than I do now. So my wife and I strategically over the years, I had good teeth, but I didn't have world-class teeth. So I saved up $25,000. I went into the dentist. I said, we're going to take Brad Pitt's teeth and Matthew McConaughey's teeth, put them on top of each other, craft them to make them unique to mine. And those are the crowns I'm going to get. I sat through 28 hours of dental surgery to get the smile that I have today. See, that's commitment to the long-term goal. I take the supplements I need to take. I do the workouts that I need to do. I keep my hair a certain way. And it may seem so trivial to some people, but as an actor, as a public face, it is important to put in the effort at all levels. And so for anybody in my group that said, well, I never saw this coming. So why did you think I got my teeth done when I was 33? Why did you think I started going to the gym when I was 30? Why do you think I took acting classes at 34? It was all, or began acting classes. That's a racket. Don't let me get into that. I jumped out of that real quick. But I was taking steps half a decade before. It wasn't like I just randomly said, I've been telling people since I was 18, I'm going to be an actor. Since before that, I have a best friend named Big Smooth, who's about 350 pounds. He's the coolest guy you ever meet. He's known when everybody was like, hey, did you know he was going to do this? He's like, are you kidding? Anybody that knows him knows he's going to do this his entire life. So, it took a while, but I stayed committed to it. And when I got in a situation where it wouldn't negatively impact my family, I did it. So that's,
man, so God, there's so much to unpack here because there's so many lessons. There's so much wisdom. I mean, it's like, and anybody listening is they're going to pick up all of the obvious things that you said that are just spot on, right? Preparation, awareness, thinking big, vision. So I am excited to get into the other side of the story because, we went through your past, but what a lot of people don't realize is what you've done in the last 5 years and how crazy it is.
Sometimes I step back and think about it and go, what?
I'm reading your interview and I'm like, what? And Christy Swiss, who I know here in Nashville, right, who made the introduction, and
she's a sweetheart.
Yeah, I met her when I was doing some extra work on a Netflix film.
I met Christy the night. I ended my first movie ever as an actor. That's how far back. Like,
That's
she
crazy.
probably thought I was more successful than I was, because I didn't go around saying, "Hey, this is my first movie." But I had just come off my first real like victory as an actor ever, and spent 18 days in Kentucky and went down to Nashville and met Christy. And ever since, it was like that. Since that movie is the catalyst, that was like the cannon. It was like the spark to the fuse on the cannon that shot the cannonball that is me out into the space.
Well, can you talk about that? So you started off acting, because what I read was that you started off and quickly realized that if you're going to make any real money and have success, you got to call the shots, and then you
Yes,
immediately
you can't. Well,
shifted.
that's like anything else. It's no different than saying, do you want to be a painter at a painting local? Do you want to go to a local guy that paints houses and say, "Hey, I want to work for you," or do you want to own your own company
That's
painting
right.
houses? It's literally the exact same thing. I think people think movies, magic, Hollywood, DiCaprio. We're all human beings. At the very core, Mark Wahlberg is a guy who owns his own company. His
That's right.
company just has to be an actor and producing company of films. It is literally something anybody can do. And meaning, if you're in it long enough and you work hard enough, you're going to have the same level of connections as Mark Wahlberg, right? And now there is the element of Hollywood that I will acknowledge. There, you do have to have the look, the timing, the luck. There is that element of like, you got to have a little bit of luck. But I would venture to say that a lot of people in life have had a big opportunity or a big moment cross their plate or their path, but they did not seize that moment.
That's right.
I am just a guy who, if my friends would say anything about me, they would probably say, "You can't, I am a Venus flytrap. I will never miss that fly. I am a spider web. If something comes through my atmosphere, not only am I going to grab it, it's like an orange. I'm going to juice every ounce of juice out of that orange." So, uh, and I think that just comes from having been poor and worked so hard.
Yeah.
I know how rare opportunity is and how you have to maximize it. And so, yeah, man, I tussled, and I was willing to go do the hard work as an actor, do the auditions. But then it just occurred to me, it's like, society's changing, and like, I look like the enemy if you're looking at like big white testosterone filled toxic male. I'm going right into that society that probably has Southern on top of it, probably everything that the world wants to hate right now. And I don't push back against it. I lean into it because I know I'm a good person. So, I thought, what I got to do here? I don't have time to wait for some casting director and some director to go, "Oh man, you're special."
Yeah.
I have to do it on my own. I have to control my own destiny. So, I started watching similarly to the way I watched as a rodman in the oil business, watching his eyman, watching the party chief that runs the crew. I started watching as an actor and the PA and the producer and the director, and going, "Oh, really? It's just can you pick this up and can you do it?" And so I said, "I can make movies. I'll figure this out." And then once we started shooting in small towns, most of the movies I was cast in, I was like, "Wait a minute. Seems like the struggle here is variables," which is every movie. It's, I got to go figure out what hotel we're staying in. I got to go figure out what catering's going to cost and which caterer I'm going to use and how far we are from set and where we're going to rent cars from. And I was like, what if I created a McDonald's with like a fixed menu in one location where you knew exactly what your catering was, who's going to do it, exactly where we're going to rent cars, exactly what the cost of everything is, thus eliminating such a block of work for the producer. And then it was a matter of salesmanship, which I come from a used car family. So, man, it didn't take me long to bullshit Hollywood and bullshit my hometown a little bit. Say, "Hey, that guy says he can do X if you can do Y." I just knew from being raised by 4 women that if I could get, men in the room that didn't want to be the one who couldn't deliver. They would outpromise each other and both die before they, wouldn't do it. So once I had both sides saying I'm the big, we're the ones that can do blah, 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 I knew that it was going to go through at that point. And the only thing I had to do is be a little grandiose, a little loud. Like I think a lot of people in my hometown, it would be wrong to say that my hometown loves me and supports me. The common people, like me, the population, the masses you don't hear from, they do. But I do battle, 10 or 15 local well-to-do that, they're big fish in a small pond. They don't want me to make their pond any bigger. And so I battle that a lot. And so I have to challenge them constantly. And, it's, I remember standing there asking the well-to-do of my town to put $2.5 million together between them, which is really no money for these people.
Yeah.
And, let's go make a movie together and I'll turn around a big investment for you and everybody will win and we can go together. Well, I mean, they didn't put together $1. So the mayor who believed in me said, look, city can't give you any money, but there's an RMLF loan, which is a loan for businesses. And, it's like a grant or something. And if the business qualifies, it doesn't matter what the business is. So my business partner at the time, a friend of mine that, we're no longer business partners, but, you have people that come and go in your life that teach you and life evolves. And we put together a movie and the town invested in it essentially through their RLF. And it was the catalyst that sort of began it. And Christy Swift worked on that first movie. It was called Lean and Snowball.
Which is a great movie. We saw it, loved it. Our family, my kids loved it.
It's probably the best, out of $42 million worth of, this is a sort of spoiler alert for the end of this interview. The $42 million worth of movies we've shot since Lean and Snowball in the last 2 years. Still, I think Lean and Snowball is the most whole, complete film, like beginning to end. Best story, solidly written, solidly acted, well-constructed film we've ever done. And I love that movie because it makes Fitzgerald look 1,000 times more beautiful than it probably actually is. But the actors embrace Fitzgerald, and Fitzgerald, whether it loves me or not, I always say I love Fitzgerald. I'm not so sure it loves me. But I'm determined it will love me, and I'm determined that I love it regardless of what it does. And I'm going to give back, and I'm going to push through, and none of them will outlast me. And it will say hometown of Alexander Kane on the water tower. And until my last breath, I'm going to be a pro Fitzgerald, pro Purple Hurricane, never give up guy, whether they want me to or not. And I think that town paints, that movie, Lean and Snowball, has done so much for our town. I mean, how could you not want to visit after watching that movie? Now, how could you? And the actors embraced it and the crew embraced it. So, now we have people all over Hollywood wearing those Fitzgerald family shirts, and that's kind of how we identify.
Wow. So in your other movies, like because I've wanted to ask you this question, like, how did you score some of these incredible actors? Because you're doing it at your terms. I mean, your way, Fitzgerald. Yeah. We're not going to Hollywood. Like, this is how it's going to be, which in and of itself is mind blowing. Like, it really is just like, wow. But
I will tell you, it's simple as money, man. I mean, can you put together a feasible business plan for a film that makes it work for the investors, and can you get the money? So that part is are you a salesman? Can you make people believe? And on most of the films, I've not had to go get the money. I just had to make people with money and with the project believe that Fitzgerald, and with my crew of amazing, talented artists like Tyler Eccles and Brandon Cox, world-class DP that Nicolas Cage raves about, and Austin Taylor and Heather. I want to say everybody's name. Terry Short, Bernie Sawyer and Walt, and I want to talk about Tony Lee and Claire and Carson and Sick Rick. I'll name drop some more at the end. But all of these guys, so amazing. Benji, Joe, they're just so talented. And I keep adding to it because I took these crew members from movies I was on as an actor. I would see the best of the best on those movie sets, and I would see who was a fun person to work with because we have a no asshole policy. So if you're a jerk or an asshole, you're not working with us. If you make it difficult, you're not working with us. So I would just see these people and I would enjoy working with them, and I'd see that they were really talented. And I'd say, hey, basically, hey, Robin Hood over here, you want to come join my band of merry men? And so we've been just having a blast and growing our resume. And it was just essentially convincing people like Netflix, hey, you got a movie that you've greenlit and you've got stars or whatever. You're convincing basically either a producer or a distributor or an investor, like, you should be driving films to us because we don't do it cheaper. We take your money and we have more resources. We stretch your dollar and you get more for your money. I'm just, through relationships, I can get you a helicopter for a lot less money than some guy in LA can get you a helicopter. He's just going to call up and go, I need a helicopter, $25,000 for 2 hours. Okay, send it. I'm going to call and go, tell you what, I'll donate to the local Veterans Administration. You donate the helicopter. I'll give $5,000 in your name to the local veterans. Everybody wins. And so it's about care. It's about passion. It's about time. It's about work ethic. It's easy to just write checks. It's easy. Give me $10 million to produce a movie. I'll just write a bunch of checks. But what we do is we go knocking on the doors. Let me tell you why you should commit that Mercedes-Benz for less money. Let me tell you how it's going to help the community, because the more movies we drive means the more money spent locally, means the bigger we grow. And I don't want to just talk about the $42 million. What I really want to talk about is the hope and the inspiration it gives young people to go, what? Wow, you can do that here? Like, because let's be real, movies seem, you turn on your TV, you see it. You go to the theater, you see it. It seems like untouchable, unreal magic, right?
That's right.
And then to see it suddenly, boom, Mel Gibson's right there. Boom, Bruce Willis is eating at a local restaurant. Bruce Willis, one of my biggest accomplishments was having Bruce Willis eat at Puckett's Diner in Fitzgerald, Georgia, and sit there and have breakfast, and to just watch everybody go like, is this real? Is this real? And so I get more out of the magic, and you see Fox back there moving around. I get more out of the magic of the movies and how it makes young people feel and old people feel. I have men come over and, they're so out of touch with reality, but I love moments where I had a guy come over in a restaurant and he sits down and he breaks down into tears and he goes, Mr. Kane, and he's 40 years older than me. And he goes, Mr. Kane, my dad is 99 years old and he loves Bruce Willis. And if there's any way possible, Bruce Willis can come out to our house and play guitar with my dad. And I'm just like, man, I would love to give you that. It's no way possible that's going to happen. But if you could get him to say it, I will get him that picture with Bruce Willis, and so I'll, you just say to Bruce, you would be amazed. The one thing I also want to impart here to people is people are so jaded about movie stars. Well, they don't live in reality, this, that, and other. Yeah, some of that's true, but most of these people are special for a reason.
Right.
And the universe didn't just tap Bruce Willis and go, you're going to have it easy your whole life. He's a special guy. He's got special talents. He can play the blues. He can play the harmonica. He's lovely to be around. And he makes people light up. And even if that's his only gift, to see people see him, it's just amazing. And he has a body double who's the most amazing guy in the world. He should be a movie star. And his name's Eric, and he looks exactly like him. And Eric's a great friend of ours. But, we've done 4, maybe 5 Bruce Willis movies now. And we're trying not to contribute to the downfall of Bruce Willis, where he keeps making these movies that people say aren't watchable or they're not. Yeah. We're trying to our movies none of them have come out yet except for Breach. I'm not going to sit here and stump for what a great movie Breach is, because we had very little control over that film. That was our first one. And we basically just the spaceship is the only part of it that we did, was create the spaceship. But, and that whole movie was shot in Fitzgerald. But Bruce, we want to add to Bruce's legacy. So we've been putting in a lot of hard work trying to make better films. And I always give them the same speech every day, which is, doesn't matter what the budget is, and it doesn't matter what you think this film's supposed to be or can be. What matters is that nothing is stopping any of us from giving Oscar level work today. You can come here and put in an Oscar level effort today. And so that's kind of what we try to do. And so we put as many resources as we can on the screen. We don't cut back or hold back. And no, it has been a joy working with the crew. That is the most fun part, is the family, the brotherhood that we've created making these movies. But you're right. Sometimes sitting there with Jamel or Gibson or Willis, you just go, is this crazy?
I know. That's just amazing to me. I'll never forget. I was an extra on The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and having 30 seconds with David Fincher and just chatting with him, and like just to go on and see him make Mindhunters and all these other movies. Like, just huge fan. But it's that, you're right. It's that magic. You get lost in it, and what they're able to, like, the impact they can make on so many people just with like their presence, and the fact that you're able to do that in a small, I mean, it's just like, this is like the best interview ever.
For anybody says, I'll get a lot of people that'll say, hey, can't you get somebody besides Bruce Willis? Good Lord, we're tired of seeing him. He makes crappy movies or something like that. I challenge anybody. I always say, sure, no problem. If you get me another A-lister, icon, movie star that wants to come be in movies with me, and I'll gladly take them. This is a testament, though, to how amazing Bruce is and his star power. Had probably 300 or 400 people gather in downtown Tifton, Georgia, right next to Fitzgerald, where we were shooting the scene. And Bruce has been there 4 times by now, or 3 times by now. And there's still a couple hundred people down there watching. And this is no insult to Luke Wilson or Devin Swa or any other actor, but they were all out there that day. So Bruce gets on a golf cart, disappears around the corner. My business partner yells out, sorry, folks, Bruce is gone for the rest of the day. The entire crowd gone within 30 seconds. So star power is a thing.
Absolutely. Armageddon, Die Hard. Are you kidding me?
That's what I'm saying. It's a real thing. For anybody that downplays the power of Bruce Willis, or, oh, it's just a Bruce Willis movie. Well, you tell the 400 people that waited for hours just to get glimpse of it. So
yeah.
And for let me tell you a great valuable lesson in life to get people from quitting. For every hater you have, there's probably 25 supporters. It's just the haters are a lot louder.
I love that. You know, I had a hater question like written down here to the left here on how you deal with haters. You just answered it. No, it was great.
I do this. I tell them the thing that's going to make them hate me more, because I realize that I can't win them over. So I tell them the thing's going to make me hate them more. I recently had a conversation with a local accountant from Fitzgerald who just despises everything I say because it's too optimistic. And he doesn't believe any of the numbers are real. And then he tried to tell me he works with a local guy that makes more money than Mark Wahlberg, Bruce Willis, Josh Duhamel, Mel Gibson combined. And I'm like, okay, all right. So the thing is, I was like, well, if that's true and the guy lives in Fitzgerald, then this is how I guess I'm a bit of an ass, because he's like, oh, this local guy I know, don't tell anybody that I work with. He's got more money than all those people put together. And I said, well, I'm super jazzed and happy that he lives in Fitzgerald then. That's awesome. It's awesome to know that all the problems I'm trying to solve, he could write a check for. So I'm waiting for that day. Let him write that check. Let him do the things for the community that I'm trying to do. I'm so glad. I'd love to talk to him. Let's get his money going for the community there.
That's
and I know that I'm sure that just pisses him off more, because I'm a guy that just challenges you. If you're going to come at me and be a dick, I'm going to be a dick back, but I'm going to be a super nice, upbeat, optimistic dick. I told what it is the guy just doesn't like my belief and my optimism, because he claims he's a realist. And so he's my number one hater. But he comes as a hater saying, I'm just a realist and I really support you 100%. I want you to know I support you 100%. I just want you to be realistic about it. But it doesn't matter if I show him the receipts. First of all, one of the things the local mayor told me was, and a bit of wisdom he gave me was, it's private business and I don't owe anybody an answer. I don't owe anybody an examination of my books or my business, because you start to go down this rabbit hole of if you show them something, then they're going to spin it and show you a different thing. And you can never please them. So you shouldn't even start trying to please them. Right. Absolutely. So the way I usually deal with haters is I ignore them. But if it is something that I think they're just sadly misinformed about, I'm not a back down kind of guy. I will go right at people and go, hey, I think you're just misinformed here. But I'm not going to spend my day fighting you. But I will tell you, your numbers are wrong. And if you want to publicly, like I recently had some people call me out in my small hometown because I'm supporting our mayor and there's a mayor race coming up. And I said, there's an easy way to solve this. We can get face to face. I will live stream it and I will allow you to ask me any question you want in front of the entire town because I have nothing to hide. I'll be glad to tell you. What I've realized, though, a lot of times what comes with haters is it's an envy, it's a jealousy for them having not made the effort to go after their dreams. And they're just really upset that you're going after your dreams and achieving some of them. If I got divorced, I would have more likes and more follows on Facebook and Instagram if I posted drama and negativity than if I post I post every day the same thing, or I did for years. I have in the last few weeks. But for years, I posted the same thing. It's this mantra that I got from a book, and it says, I will greet each day with a smile and with love in my heart. I will treat others as I want to be treated. And the reason why I post that every single morning, there's like 9 little statements, is that way, if you see me sometime during the day and I'm a dick or I'm selfish, I can't claim that I don't know better because I literally just this morning posted that I wasn't going to be that way today.
That's right.
So I try to hold myself accountable. And I always say people like this because it's easy to come on a podcast or show and paint yourself as great. I am your world. I am the best ally you will ever have or the worst damn adversary you could ever imagine. I'm not somebody you want to be up against, but 99.9% of people and I are like, I give everybody. I was married to a person that suspected everyone, was cynical. I'm now married to a person, and I am a person that everyone I meet, I assume they are a great human being. And then I let them live me down. I give you a 100. If I was your teacher, I start your grade in my class, I give you a free 100 on a test. You have to fail the class yourself because I'm not starting you at 0. I'm starting you at 100. So I think if we went around giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, we live in a society now that gives everyone a 0. Like, I suspect you. And then you got to prove me wrong that you're a good person. I assume you're a good person, which I think 99% of people are. So, which I don't understand why we all walk around being so negative. Most people I encounter every day are extremely pleasant.
Yep.
It's just that one asshole occasionally that usually that asshole is in the mirror, if I'm being honest.
Yep. Man.
But yeah, I battle them back with kindness. But I just, the thing I always tell them is, when I do engage a hater, I usually tell them this. You've just entered a long, drawn-out battle because I'm not quitting anytime soon. So I hope you got the energy to keep up. And then at the end of it, being the smartass that I am, I invited the guy to the ceremony where they put my name on the water tower.
I love it. Alex, you've been way more than gracious with your time today. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, how much I've gotten out of this interview myself. Every listener is going to listen to this. And if they don't walk away inspired, like literally they need to check their pulse, because just everything from work ethic to desire to going against the odds to how to deal with people to how to push through adversity. Like, you've done all of that in a masterful way in this interview. And so I really appreciate your time. I know you have your kids with you and you're in California. I want to respect that and give you that time, but just thank you for spending an hour on the podcast today.
I have so many people I think you should interview that are far more inspirational than me. And, listen, man, I'm a normal guy that just set out on a journey to do a thing. And I just, like I said, push through and problem solving, bro. Whatever comes up, you can't just go, well, that did me and that got the best of me. Listen, it's been more than a few times. This might be eye-opening. It's been at least a couple of times I made a movie and I got screwed over and didn't get a penny. and spent money to get that movie made. And there's this business is just a cutthroat business, but hey, we're just getting started. I got an amazing business partner named Mike Donovan, and we haven't even. I would love to come back again to talk more of the movie side. We'll talk about the 200-acre movie studio I'm trying to build. We'll talk about High Noon. So that's the bombshell. I have the remake rights to the 4-time Academy Award-winning film High Noon. I'm producing that with an amazing director, writer named David Hunt. And we've got some very big names, big names, and some of the biggest in the world. And we'll be shooting that Western, which I'll be acting in May, June of 2022. You'll hear all about that throughout Hollywood here in the next few months. That's the big secret coming out. You heard it here first. I want to say thank you to Christy Swiss, and her friendship has meant the world to me. And people like Christy are amazing because, they are the ones. You need people like Christy that don't walk past a good story and just go, okay. Right. She obviously cares, has passion. She's amazing. She's been looking for the right home, and I think she's going to end up with us. She's very independent, hardworking. I look to get her full time with us at some point soon. Man, this has been a pleasure. Like I said, I'd really like to come back and talk about the movie side, and we'll kind of go through each film. I'd like to refer you to Vernon Davis, NFL Hall of Fame tight end, and his acting, and watch where he's really going. He would love to come on and talk about acting.
Man, I would appreciate that. You are always welcome on the show. Like, you just say the word and I'm in. I'll let you get through your vacation, but man, I'd love to talk about films. I'm a fanatic. Like, I'll show you the movie theater that we built in my home. Like, I'm a fanatic. And so I appreciate it. I'm in Nashville, so I'm not too far from you. So if I can ever be of assistance,
I'll tell you another guy I'll have you interview, and he's a legend. And I consider him one of the best of the best of the best. And I'll see if I can't hook up Michael Rooker, which played Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. And he is a real dude, brother. He came down, and he's doing. I'm not going to out him because I don't know the political space of Hollywood these days. But I will tell you, he did everything Southern guys do, and he hung with us. And he's an outdoorsman, and he's a karate master, and he's a musician, and he's a poet, and he's a stage actor, and he hikes into the wilderness off the grid, and he drives a big F-250, and he's so full of life and so passionate on set. I just think he would make for an just fascinating interview.
It'd be an honor. I've been a fan of his for a very long time. So,
well, he'll always be Rowdy Burns for me on Days of Thunder.
Yep. That's awesome. Well, Alex, thank you again for your time. I appreciate this interview, and I'm just looking forward to stay connected, brother.
Yeah, we will. Let's do it. Let's try again before Christmas. I got 2 films coming up. I'll keep you connected, and we'll do sort of an end of the year wrap up.
Awesome. I love that.